There's a moment in every parent's journey that no one prepares you for. It doesn't come with a warning. No loud arguments. No door slams. Just silence. You notice it when your voice no longer carries weight in conversations. When your suggestions are brushed aside with a polite nod or worse, a dismissive smile. When the child you once held through sleepless nights begins treating you more like a background character than the hero you once were. It's not about rebellion. It's not even about forgetting. It's something quieter. Subtler. A slow shift in roles, where you no longer lead, but follow. And it stings in ways only a parent's heart can understand. You raised them with your hands, your time, your dreams. But now, they speak as if you no longer hold wisdom. They decide without asking. Sometimes, they even make you feel unintentionally like an obligation rather than a pillar. And you wonder, did they forget who I am? You feel the urge to defend yourself. To remind them of the sacrifices, the love, the countless invisible things you did just to give them a better life. But here's the quiet truth. Respect cannot be demanded. It must be reawakened. Today, I'll share with you 6 powerful yet peaceful ways to gently restore the respect you deserve, without harsh words, without blame, and without bitterness. Because your worth hasn't faded. It's just waiting to be seen again, through new eyes. These 6 steps are not rules, they are reminders. Not for your children, but for you. Stay with me. By the end of this journey, you may not just reclaim your child's respect. You may rediscover your own. Action number 1, stop arguing, start leading by quiet example. When your child begins to roll their eyes at your words, dismiss your advice, or interrupt you mid-sentence as if your voice no longer matters. It's tempting, so tempting, to react. To raise your voice. To remind them of all you sacrificed. To demand the respect you feel slipping away. But here's a gentle truth that can save you years of heartache. Arguing never earns respect. Think about it, when was the last time you truly gained someone's admiration after raising your voice in frustration? Respect isn't born from debates. It doesn't come from louder tones or longer explanations. It rises from how you carry yourself in the moments when it's tested. Meet Thomas, a former engineer who once managed teams with calm authority. But at home, now in his late 70s, he found himself being dismissed by his adult children. His ideas were brushed off. His concerns were labeled outdated. Sometimes, they even laughed when he tried to guide them. At first, Thomas fought back, trying to assert himself with logic and passion. But the more he tried to prove himself, the more invisible he became. One evening, everything changed. Not because of a heated conversation, but because of a pause. Thomas stopped defending himself. He stopped chasing their approval. Instead, he began responding with presence. He spoke less, but with clarity. He listened more, and when he did speak, his words came from a place of reflection, not reaction. Slowly, something shifted. His children began to look at him differently, not because he demanded it, but because he embodied it. If your child has lost sight of your wisdom, don't chase them down the path of conflict. Stand your ground, quietly, firmly, and with dignity. Respect yourself first. Speak not to be heard, but to be felt. And most importantly, never lower yourself to meet the level of their disrespect. Because when you hold your posture with peace, and your words with grace, they will notice. And in time, they'll follow the example you've always been. If you're still watching and this resonates with you, leave a comment with the number 2 below so I know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, your support helps us continue creating meaningful stories that matter. Let's keep going. Action number 2, stop chasing their approval, start respecting your own boundaries. There's a quiet trap many parents fall into as they grow older, and it often begins with good intentions. You want peace in the family. You want to stay close to your children. So you say yes, when you really want to say no. You cancel your plans, to fit into theirs. You bite your tongue, even when something inside you is aching to speak. You tell yourself, maybe if I just keep being nice, they'll appreciate me more. But here's the hard truth. The more you chase their approval, the more you lose their respect. Let me explain. True respect doesn't come from how much you sacrifice for others. It comes from how much you honor yourself in the process. When you consistently put your child's needs above your own, when you stay silent to avoid conflict, when you shrink yourself to make space for them, you're teaching them, without realizing, that your voice matters less. And when they start believing that, it becomes far too easy to dismiss you. I once met a woman named Eleanor. She was bold and brilliant in her youth, a small business owner, a fierce advocate for her community. But in her later years, she began deferring to her adult children on everything. She rearranged her days to match their schedules. She held her opinions in, even when they spoke to her with impatience or entitlement. "I just want to keep the family together," she once whispered to me. But in trying to keep the peace, she lost her place. Her children stopped seeking her advice. They spoke over her, made plans without her, and treated her kindness as an expectation, not a gift. Eleanor didn't lose their respect because she became weaker. She lost it because she began acting like she didn't matter. Here's the shift. If your children don't respect you, the first step is not to demand respect. It's to stop acting like you need their approval to feel whole. Start by drawing lines. Speak up, even if your voice shakes. Say no when something doesn't feel right and mean it. Because the moment you begin respecting yourself again, you reteach the world how to treat you, including your own children. And in time, that quiet strength becomes the very reason they begin to respect you once more. Action number 3, reclaim your emotional self. Don't make them the center of your worth. One of the hardest truths that aging reveals is this. You cannot build your emotional well-being around your children. You can love them deeply. You can wish for their time, their care, their affection. But the moment they sense that your happiness depends on them, the energy of the relationship begins to shift. You see, people, even our own children, respect those who stand emotionally on their own 2 feet. When you constantly seek validation, affection, or reassurance from them, it doesn't draw them closer. It often pushes them away. It adds pressure. It turns your presence into a quiet obligation. And slowly, they begin to feel burdened, not bonded. I once knew a woman named Judith, a graceful woman, kind to her core, who had poured everything into raising her 2 daughters. But after they grew up and moved away, Judith found herself waiting. Waiting by the phone. Waiting for visits. Waiting for some small reminder that she still mattered. And when days passed without a call, she'd be the one to dial. Again and again. Leaving voice messages that always ended with "I miss you so much" or "I wish you'd visit more." But something strange happened. The more she reached out, the more her daughters drifted. Those calls stopped being moments of connection. They became silent waits, reminders of guilt, not love. Until one day, Judith did something quietly radical. She stopped waiting. Instead, she started painting again, a passion she had abandoned decades earlier. She joined a weekend walking group. She even adopted a rescue dog named Milo. She reclaimed her mornings, her hobbies, her joy. And something unexpected followed. Her phone started ringing again. Her daughters began calling without being asked. They wanted to hear her stories, see her smile. Because now, she wasn't calling to fill a hole. She was calling to share a full life. The lesson? The less you depend on them to feel valuable, the more they'll value your presence. When you show them that your life is whole, not waiting to be completed by their attention, they stop seeing you as a responsibility and start seeing you as someone worth admiring. Action number 4, set clear boundaries and hold them without apology. Sometimes, the greatest reason our children stop respecting us is not because they stopped loving us, but because we quietly taught them it was okay to cross the line. When you allow interruptions, tolerate dismissive tones, or accept being treated like your time doesn't matter, you're not just keeping the peace. You're giving silent permission. And the truth is, people treat you the way you consistently allow them to. Especially those closest to you. Now, let me be clear. Setting boundaries doesn't mean slamming doors, cutting ties, or starting drama. It means calmly and firmly letting others know. This is what I will accept and this is what I won't. And more importantly, it means following through when those boundaries are tested. I once met a man named Harold. A retired architect, wise, composed, and respected in his field. But at home? His adult children treated him like a footnote. They interrupted him mid-sentence, laughed off his concerns, and once even told him, "Dad, no offense, but your opinions are kind of outdated now." At first, Harold bit his tongue. He told himself, "Let it go. Don't cause tension." But deep down, it gnawed at him. And then one day, he did something different. During a family lunch, his son cut him off. Harold calmly paused, made eye contact, and said, "I'll continue when you're ready to listen." Another time, when his daughter dismissed his opinion, he replied, "You don't have to agree with me, but I expect to be spoken to with respect." And when the behavior continued, he drew the line. "If I'm not treated with basic decency, I'll be spending my time elsewhere." There was pushback at first. Some silence. But then, a shift. His children began listening more. Not out of fear, but because they sensed something had changed. Their father was no longer tolerating disrespect dressed up as family normal. He had reclaimed his self-worth. And in doing so, he earned their respect, not through anger, but through quiet, unwavering clarity. So if you've noticed your children crossing the line, ask yourself, have I shown them where the line actually is? Because here's the truth no one tells you. If you don't defend your dignity, no one else will. If this speaks to you, leave a comment with the number 4 below so I know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button. Your support helps us continue crafting stories that inform, inspire, and empower. Let's move forward. Action number 5, stop giving when gratitude is absent. Reclaim the worth of your generosity. Few things erode respect faster than generosity that is never acknowledged. And yet, as parents, we often give long past the point we're appreciated. We give our time. We give our energy. We give our money, our advice, our presence even when it's met with silence, or worse, with entitlement. We keep giving, hoping it'll bring us closer. But sometimes all it does is push us further away. Because here's a hard truth. When you give to someone who doesn't value your gift, you're not deepening love, you're deepening their expectations. And soon enough, your kindness isn't seen as a blessing, but as a service. Something automatic. Something owed. And when you finally stop, they don't feel grateful, they feel inconvenienced. Let me tell you about a man named Leonard. A devoted father. The kind who would drop everything for his children. He helped pay their rent when money was tight. He babysat at a moment's notice. He even postponed his retirement to help one of his sons start a business. But instead of appreciation, what he got in return were complaints. "That's all you can give this month? Why didn't you call me first thing this morning? You don't understand what I need, Dad." It took Leonard years to realize. He hadn't earned their respect through giving. He had taught them that they never had to say thank you. And one morning, after a particularly thankless favor, he changed course. He stopped offering before being asked. He stopped adjusting his life to solve their every inconvenience. And most importantly, he learned to say a small but powerful word. No. The backlash came quickly. His children were confused, even angry. But over time, slowly but surely, something shifted. They began to call without asking for money. They asked how he was doing, not what he could do for them. Because they finally realized. His help wasn't endless. It was a choice, a gift. And suddenly, it became something to be grateful for. So if your children no longer appreciate your time, your efforts, or your kindness, pause and ask yourself, am I giving out of love, or out of habit? And if it's the latter, what would happen if you stopped? Because when you tie your generosity to your dignity, you teach others to value both. Action number 6, build a life beyond them, let them witness your wholeness. One of the most powerful ways to earn back the respect of your adult children is to quietly show them this one thing: that your life doesn't orbit around theirs. As parents, we spend decades centering our world around our kids. Their needs, their milestones, their happiness. And when they grow up, we often forget to shift that focus back to ourselves. We forget to reclaim our own purpose. And when we don't, they begin to see us as people without direction. People whose joy depends entirely on them. But here's the truth. People admire those who live from a place of fullness, not from emotional dependence. I once knew a man named Walter. A retired naval officer, widowed at 68. After his wife passed, he poured everything into his children's lives, texting them daily, showing up uninvited, offering advice that no one asked for. He meant well. But his constant presence felt like pressure, not warmth. Instead of drawing them closer, it pushed them away. They called less. Visits became rare. And Walter, despite all his efforts, felt more alone than ever. One afternoon, after yet another unanswered call, he made a different choice. He picked up an old leather journal and started writing again, something he hadn't done since his 20s. He joined a local history club. He started hosting chess nights for other seniors in his community. And slowly, something beautiful unfolded. His children began to reach out. Not because they felt guilty, but because they were genuinely curious. "Dad, how was your hike this week? Can you send me one of your new stories? You sound so different lately, like you're really enjoying life. What changed?" Walter stopped orbiting their world and started spinning in his own again. That shift, from dependency to self-fulfillment, rekindled not just their connection, but their respect. So if your children no longer see you the way they once did, ask yourself, have I shown them that I still have a life of my own? Because when you stop waiting for their attention and start building a life that's rich, meaningful, and truly yours, they will start to see you not as someone who needs saving, but as someone worth celebrating. If you're still watching and this story resonated with you, leave a comment with the number 6 below so I know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to click that button and ring the bell. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that inspire, empower, and honor your journey. Let's keep growing, together. Respect is not something you can demand from your children. It's not a trophy you earn by keeping score of sacrifices. And it's never found in shouting matches or silent resentment. True respect is something they begin to feel quietly, naturally, when they witness the way you carry yourself. It's in the strength of your boundaries, the peace in your silence, the dignity in your no, and the fullness in a life that doesn't beg for attention, but shines on its own. So if your children have stopped treating you with care, don't fight harder. Stand firmer. Stop chasing their approval. Because when you no longer need it, they often return it freely. Lead by quiet example. Because your presence speaks louder than any argument. Reclaim your emotional independence. Because people admire strength, not dependence. Set and hold your boundaries. Because no one can honor limits you never define. Stop giving to those who don't appreciate. Because when kindness becomes routine, it loses its power. And above all, build a rich, meaningful life outside their orbit. Because self-respecting people command respect without ever asking. And when you begin living that truth, something quietly remarkable happens. Your children begin to look at you, not as someone waiting in the shadows of their lives, but as someone they admire. Someone who inspires. Someone they choose to respect. Not because you forced them to, but because you became someone worth respecting. Thank you for walking with us today. If something in this message touched you, leave a comment below. Share one shift you're ready to make in your own life. Your words matter. Your story matters. And it might just be the light someone else needs to see. If you found value in this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. Until next time. Keep walking with dignity. You don't demand respect. You live in a way that leaves no other option.